He look easy.
He does end up making the Lucy look easy here. But, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a bit of a treat for you because it is not the end here of the 8 matches like we normally have. We have 9 matches for you guys today because we have a bit of a scheduling problem. And because of that, we're going to have Dolos taking on Game On here.
Game On versus Dolos. This is a pretty exciting match. I believe this happened week 1. And I think Game On were the victors. They managed to take down Dolos. But, you know, Dolos, I'm feeling pretty confident they might have a counter comp available for Game On. We talk about Game On as the team that runs one comp. Of course, playing with Corrupted, things are a little bit different. But last week, they only ran the Taya, the Ulrich, and the Thorn. But Dolos, they're kind of like the opposite. These guys play anything, and they're willing to switch it up at a moment's notice. So I'm very interested to see how they draft and what they end up playing. I wouldn't be too surprised to see something weird, maybe like a Varesh pick. I feel like Varesh is very good against the playstyle of Game On because you need that big burst damage.
Okay, and just relying on the, you know, shatter count, like combo plays to be able to get that one shot with the silence onto the target is the biggest thing with the Varesh. And
just having purple on people. If you just have the purple ring under people, that Hand of Judgment, that damage amp, everybody starts to do so much damage. Yeah. But we probably won't see the Varesh, but that it's a possibility.
The only thing I want is Ivar on Taya again.
Yes.
After the last series that we got from him, I want to see that action then again because his X strikes, the use of the Zephyr, everything of the like was very impressive here. So we see these first picks pulling through. What do we get? Ulrich and Freya.
Makes sense. Clerney played Ulrich earlier on. He looks pretty good on the Ulrich, though he did get bursted down sometimes. And, you know, that first pick from Game On, a little bit unfavorable for the Ulrich. Freya, she don't care about no shields. She just used that Thunderclap, press that E button, and then jump right over the shield, land on you. And that's not ideal. Not a great matchup for an Ulrich, but we'll see how the rest of the draft goes. Hey!
We got him!
Right out of left field, I sniped the Varesh pick. I'm very surprised I ended up being right here. The Ulrich pick for Game On, too, making a lot of sense. Minnie is very good at that character. When I think of Minnie, I think of Ulrich and I think of Lucy. So to see him stick to the this character makes a lot of sense. This last pick going to be very telling for Dolos. I wonder if they're running double range. They're not. Okay, so this is filthy. This is a filthy comp. You can do so much damage so quickly with Armor Break and Judgment. Oh, this is going to be really gross. I wonder if we're on like an Orman map again like we saw earlier. If we are, I feel really good for Dolos. If it's a more open map, I do feel a little bit better for Game On. Of course, having that Taya in your back pocket, it's kind of like the ghetto other side. You tornado your ally when they are about to get comboed, and it helps reposition them. It's not quite as good, but it still serves a purpose.
The poor man's other side. I like that, you know, to be able to have that kind of coming in here from the team. So even though the damage potential in the composition of Dolos is, I mean, it's ridiculous with the vulnerability between that Armor Break, as you said, with the Judgment capabilities on Varesh. I think it's very important for people at home to be like, well, then why don't we see this every game? Because there are also some glaring kind of trade-offs that come off with this play style.
Yeah, we saw the weakness of Varesh, or not Varesh, but rather Rook earlier. You just kind of die to AoE. But this game, there's not a whole lot of AoE on Game On. Of course, there is the Freya, who has a favorable matchup for similar reasons to Freya. Don't got to hit that counter. Use your Thunderclap, still deal damage, apply static, wait for the counter to end. But it's not as bad for the Rook as earlier, but still, the weaknesses might make themselves apparent here.
Yeah, and I just look at that and I go, well, there's only one iframe within the Rook, and he's very, you know, contingent on his counter, right? And then we look at Varesh, you go, no ability to get that escape, also depending on his counter. It goes dodge 2 counters, 2 targets. Not necessarily that they're gonna die, but they are very, very susceptible. Granted, Varesh has a little bit of supporting capabilities on his own with his inhibitor's guard, and then you have the opportunity to rely on the Ulrich. It's just whether or not that trade-off is going to be worth it and make up for it. And more often than not, it seems like anybody who can cross-compare between that I do damage, I do supporting, usually is going to be able to make up for some of the forgiveness necessary. But again, with that 40 damage threshold that we have here in Battlerite, it makes double supporting composition so much different than your average game.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm pretty interested in seeing how this range matchup goes. Of course, Jürgen on that Varesh, he's very good at the character, and I feel confident in his abilities. But on the other side, Ivar, it's hard to hit hasted characters. He's fast. He's a Taya. He's not going to want to get hit by any of those Hand of Judgments. So I think we'll see Jürgen focusing a whole lot more onto Corrupted when he tries to engage than the backline. So we might see some Taya running around, being unpressured. Very open map, too. Not quite ideal for Rook, but I'm sure he can make it work.
The Nightmare takes no hesitation there, just immediately kind of moves in and charges. Counter's going to be dropped on both sides here. The melee's getting pressured, but look at how much pressure is there on Corrupted. As you were talking about that Judgment threat, the Rook tries to turn around to make the pressure happen. Your Nightmare goes in with a spacebar, uses the M2. The damage coming through, but the E used by Freya. The stun coming in against the wall. The smite thrown down. The tornado actually gets Freya out of here. Judgment is actually, or the counter hit there onto Varesh. Ultimate comes down along with Rook getting that follow-up. Freya is holding holding on, but there comes the in cap, the armor break.
He's so close to
the
counter though.
Space bars out.
Oh, but that ultimate going to be dropped. Jürgen misses the second one, and that's not ideal. However, he's still so incredibly low. They might be able to find two. Will they get the second one? The second space misses. Very unfortunate, but Dolos secures the orb, and Rook from downtown goes in and hits him.
Yeah, you want to know what the, you know, a belly button full of lint from Rook tastes like. That was a nice setup over there from your Nightmare. With that death animation, because he throws his stomach so far out, just hit the belly, gave you the beef there, and they end up getting the kill. Game on. Struggling with the pressure, but I mean, to be honest, that was it was very just kill whoever the melees are on both sides of the battlefield, and it didn't seem like there was a major misplay on one side of that. It was just like, who can get this kill faster?
That's exactly what I wanted to bring up. You hit my point precisely. It was like, which melee gets punished harder? And Corrupted, he ended up just getting a little bit harder punished. And even though Jürgen died before he ended up finding the kill, he was so low, as was Mini, that they ended up not being able to survive. And your Nightmare, early on, he looked like he had a really hard time against that Taya.
He did seem to kind of reel it back into the control here.
Yes.
It'll be interesting. If maybe, you know, one of these melees is able to find a better way to deal with some of the pressure that they're being applied by their opponents, and suddenly you see these rounds being played out a little bit different. For now, it's still going to be smashing here with those melees against one another. Corrupted falling pretty low there, 165 HP still kind of remaining.
Your Nightmare having a pretty rough time getting in. He finally lands an M2. He's still trying to farm up energy for that E. They need this orb on the blue team, but I don't think they're going to get it, and they don't. They're looking like Corrupted snagged it.
Jürgen has no counter if they want to try and capitalize. He actually uses R. That's all his gap closure. He can't get out of there. The inhibitor guard goes down to be able to heal through that ultimate. There's the second counter opportunity. They get the track down. But meanwhile, Rook in his 2v1 far more healthy here.
Yeah, it seems like the blue team is having a hard time coordinating their damage too. I talked about it early on. You want to be able to burst down people. The red team going to secure another orb, and with that, the task for the blue team is even harder.
Pretty big blind coming in from Dolos, but I don't know if it's going to really be too kind of relevant here. Actually, look at that pressure coming in.
Yeah, that R.
Is he able to make it out here? I don't know if he has the opportunity to get a counter or anything like. There goes the counter down, not going to hit. And Jürgen out of here.
Yeah, Jürgen nowhere to go. He used that R very early on, it felt like. Now the counter, it wasn't procced by the red Freya, but she's going to go back and secure the orb. The two on the blue team trying to coordinate enough damage to find a kill, but it's not looking like they're going to be able to.
So how, man, the way that round just played out from beginning to end, it was very kind of confusing, because both times we saw there was two opportunities where Jürgen very, very split here, as you know, Corrupted kind of getting questionably low for a moment here, but I feel like it's very likely we see them kind of lock this in. But we saw the Varus isolated out of any kind of escape opportunities for a couple of moments. Didn't really matter. Next time that happens, somebody ends up getting died. Was that only because Corrupted was the only one putting that pressure on the backline for the first time that we see that there? Like, what was the breaking point in that round? Because it felt like it was kind of rinse and repeat of what we were already seeing.
The breaking point was a chase from Ivar. He recognized that Jürgen had nowhere else to go, so like you mentioned, Corrupted, he applied the pressure early and forced those outs, and then Ivar just chased down Jürgen and ended up finding the kill. That great coordination. I'm sure there were lots of call-outs saying that Jürgen had nowhere left to go, and they just found the kill.
See if they can find it again. Still tied up here for the last series of Battlerite Pro League EU. Game on in Dolos, and Game On been looking so good at the top of their group.
Ooh, your Nightmare very lucky getting his counter proc there, but then he walks into the fray and hits hers. Look at those shields, they're huge, and the pressure on Jürgen is even bigger. That Thunderclap is going to continue, and the end cap comes out onto Ulrich. This is not looking good for Blue, as they're still trapped in this corner, and Rook in the center of the stage hits the counter. Nobody trading favorably here on Dolos.
Yeah, Game On able to pull out there and make sure that they secured that orb, but look at Rook falling so low. There comes down to Thunderclap air, and the counter ends up getting proc there with no more escape opportunities, and now they swap the focus onto Varus. Seems to be their focus. Inhibitor guard goes down. Ivar gets hit there with the E out from your Nightmare. Questions if he wants the spacebar. He's going to commit here, not going to land it. Ultimate coming out now down from Taya as Clerney is dealing with the 2v1 there with that Corrupted diving the backline. Honestly, the fact that Dolos is holding on is amazing here.
Absolutely. It looked like for a second they might be able to bring it back, but Corrupted didn't get quite low enough to burst down. That huge Varesh ultimate hitting all 4 hits onto him looked like it might be the start of something good for Dolos, but Game On aren't having any of it, and they take round 3 easily.
Game On here.
Oh,
yeah,
feels bad.
When you try to gather power and there's nobody to gather from, it's a real hard time.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite things about Varus gathering power ultimate that I think is really, really cool is the fact that you don't always have to hit a hero. You can Blossom Tree. I'll go ahead and proc off that. Be like, I can tell how many Xanders have ended up dying because they spacebar next to me. It's a million of them. It's one of my favorite things there, because for anybody who doesn't know, if you don't hit an opponent, you just run out of you know, power to give.
But just as good as it feels to hit a bunch of them to start on the tree,
feels
to hit an ally, it feels just as bad to miss it.
Yeah. Here we are now. Your Nightmare able to hit the spacebar this time. Counter even kind of proc there, getting a nice shield. A pretty good trade there, but we got to look at Varish's health bar as Jürgen ended up using that counter, and now they rotate that pressure back onto Nightmare. You got to love here the focus on Game On. Focusing one until its cooldowns are up, swapping, and then back and forth between that Rook, between the Varish.
Absolutely. Your Nightmare up top. He gets the armor break onto Corrupted, but doesn't get too much damage to follow it up. And down bottom, the Judgment being applied onto the Taya. My god, the bursts are huge. They need to find a kill here, but it's not looking like they're going to be able to. And the powers combined, getting so much damage for Jürgen, and they find the kill on Corrupted. Huge ultimate from the Varesh.
Great job there from Dolos, able to capitalize on Corrupted being out a little bit too far. And with that, Dolos will be able to secure the rest of this round. Very well done there. I thought for sure, you know, it looked like for a moment it might get kind of hairy, but then very quickly Dolos saying nah here, Corrupted out too far, and just got the damage in there. We saw, I feel like that was a perfect case of when you're talking about the purple ring.
That purple ring.
The purple ring was very much on Freya, and it started going like, wait, I thought Freya was a little tankier than this.
Yeah, turns out she's not. When you have that Hand of Judgment, you're going to just die. And even with the low damage numbers, look at that. It's so crazy. Dolos, like, as a whole, they dealt no damage. Clurny actually dealing the most damage on his team. But the burst, it all came in coordinated efforts because of that damage capability coming out of Armor Break and Hand of Judgment. It happened all so quickly that they were able to find kills.
Nightmare takes a very bad trade there. His M2 and his counter's down. No opportunities to escape, but at least they got the damage there onto Corrupted, eating that counter as well, forced to use his E to survive. Actually, Corrupted completely on an island, actually spacebarring out. Mini had to go in to try and get the save, didn't get the reset on the spacebar. And I mean, as you put it there, you're very much like, okay, this round is over before it's over.
Yeah, I looked down, I saw Corrupted go down to like 20 HP. I was like, what do I say?
You know, wrap this up, boys. Let's go. Yeah, ready for the next one.
Next round, yeah. Yeah, Corrupted, he got punished really hard, really early on. The armor break really flexing there. His counter wasn't procced, he got no shields, and he got bodied. Look at his score, 208. That's a feels bad.
I mean, it definitely feels bad.
Are you trying to like find a silver lining?
I'm trying. That's what I do. To be honest, I'm supposed to be the one who's negative Nancy, and then you be positive when I get sour, you know? So whenever you end up putting the salt out there, I'm just trying to find a way to get that counterbalance, and it's a little difficult
I'm trying to train you on your positive versatility.
Yeah, we're working on it. For now, though, Rook moving in, already chunked down below 50% for your Nightmare. Ulrich going to get a nice space bar on out. So getting the trade is the orb coming up. Freya is going to be the focus there, trying to get the damage onto Corrupted. Orb up. Who claims it for themselves? It's going to be Game On.
It is Game On. That's very good for them. Man, Ulrich matches are so incredibly messy. Both of these teams getting in there, trying to fight. Ivar, he's barely able to make it away from that Rook charge. Things are looking pretty good here for Red as they kind of caught Blue in the corner, but the pressure onto Ivar is not being let up. He has that tornado, but the Rook charge is going to hit him. And now the end cap coming out. The Freya ultimate getting some damage, but not nearly enough to make up for the damage that's been done to the Red Taya.
Yeah, the tornado was down. It's got to be up in a couple seconds. Look at that slap there from your Nightmare, setting things up. And now we see Ivar trying to get the kite out. Not going to happen there. Last cleaver coming in with that M1 for Dolos. Thunder going to be thrown down for Corrupted, trying to turn this around, but don't know if it's going to be possible here as the members of Game On without that and with the silence hitting, and more importantly, your Nightmare just being the biggest bully on Rook we've seen in a hot while.
Dude, yeah, Game On living their own personal nightmares with this Rook charging him down. It's looking like this 6th round is going to go in favor of Dolos and put them on match point. The Freya ultimate comes out, Corrupted secures the orb, but I feel pretty safe in saying there's no way he's able to bring this back. He has a 2nd ultimate, so he does get more damage, but you know, he's dead.
Yeah, it was secure enough that your Nightmare was mounting up and just walking. He was like, eventually, I'm going to be able to get this kill. Very well done here from Dolos. And now they're going to be on that match point.
Of course, Game On is the 1st seed in their group. This is pretty important that they're up here.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm going to be honest. I'm torn. Like, this is anything but what I expected. We got Ivar back on the Taya. You know, Corrupted is getting pressured, but versus your Nightmare is losing this trade 1-to-1 at the first opening, but eventually then Freya is very quickly getting rebutted on very quick.
It's the burst, dude.
It's crazy. Look at your Nightmare. Every time he's spacebarred out, he has taken a very unfavorable trade early on. Here we see the damage rotation in.
Yep, just like this.
And now Freya somehow gets focused so hard that it doesn't matter. Every round.
Yep, here it is. The counter's not going to get procced either. You're calling out like it is. Unfortunately for the blue team, the punish on a Freya is not as massive as it was in rounds prior. The end cap is going to miss too. Doesn't hit either character with that smack. Now it's looking like this orb's going to go to red. The Radiant Shield blocking it. The EXM2 coming out onto Clerney. The Freya ultimate as well. Oh gosh, this is a big ultimate from Jurgen. Unfortunately, he misses that second hit.
Yeah, Jurgen in front still, again, only one win away here with that Rook to be able to get the win in this series. Freya throwing down here a little bit with that E, corrupted. Gonna actually, spacebar coming in from Rook, not gonna land the way they would want. We see that kind of armor break coming in as Dolos find themselves in another orb. Spacebar through from Rook, and your Nightmare completely split from his team. But the members of Game On unable to capitalize, at least quite yet. There we see the in cap coming through. Two-man stun out from the Ulrich. They put the
might
focus.
Be able to get this.
The tornado, and he lives. But now, look at this, pressure onto Corrupted. The counter goes down, orb coming up. Ivar questioned if he can make anything happen going in there. R already goes down. Dolos end up getting another orb. The counter now hits onto the Rook. He seems to be the focus. Your Nightmare doesn't care. He goes in here, ends up using the R, but it's not going to land the in-cap anybody. They hit the stun with Ulrich. They throw out the Aegis. Somehow, Dolos is holding on here.
Yeah, that counter proc was absolutely huge on your Nightmare. Blue team desperately needs to heal up as they do. The EXQ coming out from Clerney, healing his allies to full. The crush onto the orb helps secure it for his team, and they get it. Dolos, they're now in a situation to take this round.
Dolos have the opportunity to be able to take this, to be able to close out, but they're so low there when looking at Ulrich's HP. Spacebar goes through. Armor break actually with that Q knockback. Great job there. Rook is
they get
him! The M2 iframe buys the time and they get the kill, but it's not over yet.
It's not, absolutely not. Your Nightmare and Jurgen both at risk of going down. The Aegis throw coming out from Clerney though, and the Aegis throw coming out from Red, but the orb is secured. That orb kept Jurgen alive. Beautiful play from Your Nightmare, not letting his ally die. However, the Taya still could find a big X strike. If she does, he might die. But the damage mitigation is there. He doesn't end up taking that much, and things are now looking very good for Dolos as Taya dies.
And with that final pickup, it looks like this is going to be Dolos walking away and getting the victory and upset here up against Game On.
Yeah, really big upset, of course, playing with a stand-in, but Corrupted, he's nobody you can just look over and say, oh, they had a stand-in, it's nothing. Dolos played incredibly well, and with this a bit of a cheese comp here, this damage amp comp with the Varesh Rook, they just come out and beat him down.
I have a question about if this composition was run on the last patch with the damage reduction out of with the damage reduction opportunities and the damage amplification on both fronts, and then also having the Ulrich opportunity to get damage reduction, would that have just been ridiculous?
You could not run this last patch, I don't think. I don't think you could run the Rook Varesh, just simply because of how tanky everybody is with the Ulrich. It would have simply been too hard. Also, the Rook buffs helped him out quite a bit.
I was just going to say, I forget that Rook got colossal changes.
Oh, yeah.
I just view it as like, you know, we're already taking some of those elements, and last patch it could have been even more exaggerated in very different manners, and my brain immediately starts going like, what would that have looked like?
Imagine current Rook with old Ulrich. Oh my god, that'd be gross.
I'm enjoying my experience without those things in the solo queue world. Like, it's a hard enough time having to deal with Pearl, not those things as well beyond it.